Hi, welcome to my next lesson in Houdini FX. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to use particles and convert them into trails to get an output. I'll show you the output before I go into the lesson. You can see this is the output. This is nothing but particles with trails in it with a noise added to it so that I can get a certain randomization. I'm just rewinding the entire sequence. This is the image sequence which has been rendered. This is the final output of today's lesson. Now let us go into Houdini and we'll open our network view. First and foremost, I need to add a particle into the scene. So I'm going to do control left click on my emitter to add a emitter. We can move this emitter upwards on the Y so that it's somewhere in the middle of the space. I can always get rid of my construction grid also. So let's play, and now the particles are emitting over here. What we do next is we need to go into my particle geometry, particles focus. Like this is the object. This is where we've got particle location. We'll double click and focus onto the popnet here. Inside the popnet, first and foremost, we need to add a node called cache. Now, why we'll add this cache node, I'll explain in a few minutes. At the same time, let me add a trail node here. Okay. What this trail node does, let me connect my popnet to my trail. Okay, I'll put the focus on trail and let me just rewind and play. So what does this trail node do? Let me just pause this animation and move in. You can see each of these particles are being trailed by one because my trail length is given as 2. Okay, so we can increase this. Let's increase this to somewhere around 4, and I'll increase my increment to also 4. Might take a few minutes to cook. Okay, so we're getting this particles. At the same time, let me change this to connect as polygons, and I will close these rows. So if I rewind now and play, you can see I'm getting these lines. Now here we are going to face some problems. See, if I rewind this and play now, it starts off, then it vanishes. That is because the data which the particle is generating is not so getting transposed into this trail so fast. So what we need to do is we need to connect this to the cache. I'll just get rid of this connection here. And we're going to connect this cache back into my trail. Okay. So now let's see what happens. Now you can see since it's caching separately, I am able to generate those particle trails here. Now these particle trails are getting generated in a very simple and in a straightforward manner. We can always add noise to my particle system. So I'll just go back to my object level. I'm going to select my particle location and I'm going to come to drive particles, and you've got noise. Okay. So did it get added? No, it didn't get added. Let's just play this for a minute so that I can select it. I'm going to select this particle net and I'm going to add noise to it. It's asking me to select the particle. Something seems to be evaluating. It's probably cooking for a couple of seconds. I'll just pause while it cooks. Okay, there was a small glitch there. We'll go into our particle network, go inside popnet, select this particle object here and click on noise. Okay, so my noise is added. We'll just tweak the properties of the noise over here. Frequency, we'll shoot it up to somewhere around 8, 8 and 8. And we'll reduce the amplitude to somewhere around 4, 4 and 4. With that setup done, let's come back to my particle object and let's rewind and let's play. Now there's not much of a noise here. It's not actually giving those curves. It's coming out straight up. So what we'll do is we'll just come here and clear my cache once, and I'll rewind and I'll play. Oops, something's gone wrong. Let's come back to my trail. Play. The cache is not getting reset. Not an issue, just come back to your cache, clear the cache and play. You can see these trails coming up, but right now it's not coming in straight. See, you can see it's actually building up those curves now. See, again the kind of flexibility that you would want in your curves depends on one factor here. If you come to your trail, there is this factor of adding segment. Sorry, here you need not to add segments. Here this is just the trail of the particle, but still it's picking up some curves. Now if I need to render out this trail, I need to add this into a mesh. To get this into a mesh, what we will do is we'll add a node called sorry something seems to be going wrong with the output here. We'll add a wire poly wire. Let's bring a poly wire to the scene and let's connect my poly wire here. Now if you see, if I just bring the focus onto my poly wire now, and if I play, let's see what we get. Okay, you can see now mesh being generated from this. Again, the kind of mesh you want will be, you can set up from here. If you see this, it's saying divisions as 4. If you see this, these are I've got 4 divisions here. You could increase this if you want a cylindrical kind of an object. You can increase this to 8. So in my file which I showed you, I kept it at 4. I had reduced down my wire radius so that it looks more like a wire and less like a mesh. So I'm going to take it down to somewhere around 0.08. So it's not very thick or not very heavy over here. So this is the basic setup. I can increase the segments. If I increase the segments to somewhere around 5, so it will add more flexibility to the mesh. That done, let's play. Now this setup is going to continuously add mesh onto your scene, so you'll have to be a bit careful with the kind of segmenting that you are going to take. We'll just increase this to 0.01 so that it's slightly more thicker. Yeah, now the mesh is thicker. We can see it snaking around over here. Right, once this mesh has been made, we can start a render. For, as I've explained in my quick start lesson also, to render anything in Maya, to render anything in Houdini, first and foremost we will be adding a camera. So let's add a new camera to the scene, and I'll play this for a few scenes so that frames, so that I know where my object is going to be. And let's set up my camera, and I'm going to lock it here so that it remains that way. I'm going to come into my lights and add a point light. Okay, need not do that, just control left click to add a point light to the scene. You can see you are seeing through the point light now. Set up your view wherever you want your point light to be. That being done, you can come back to your camera one. You can see my point light is here already onto the scene. To render anything out of Houdini, you have to add a mantra node. So come to render, mantra, and a mantra node is added. To see the mantra node, to see its properties, you have to come to object, click here and go to output. Here you will find your mantra node. Inside your mantra node, you will select your camera. Render any frame is set to render frame range. I want you to render from frame 1 to frame 240. And come to properties, come to samples, allow motion blur. We'll add motion blur to the scene. One final thing that you need to work out is come back to your object. Now the thing with particles is the motion blur is going to happen because of its because of the changes in the particle structure or changes in the trail structure. Here we need to come to render, come to sampling, and enable this geometry velocity blur. Once you've enabled this, you can come back to your output, come to your mantra and click on render. Your M player comes into view and the rendering starts. So this was a very basic setup of how to work with nodes. Okay, one more thing, we've not added any material to it. So quickly let's come back to our object node and let's add a new pane for material. I'm going to take a basic glow material here and simply drag this glow material and leave it onto the scene. So inside my glow, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to change my color to orange and somewhere orangish here, and I'm going to shoot up this value so that it becomes very bright, and as and when the particle ages, the color changes. So that done, I'll jump back to my output, come to my mantra and hit a render, and here it starts rendering. So I'm not going to render out the entire sequence here because we've already seen how it looks. So I'll just interrupt this and show you the final output as I had shown in the beginning of the lesson. This is what your final output will look like. Right? That's all for today's lesson. Would appreciate a feedback from your end. Thank you.